Welcome to this deep dive. We're taking a look at those thought-provoking essays you picked from 101 essays that will change the way you think.
Oh, nice.
And today we're going to really try to break down some key insights about personal growth and emotional intelligence and navigating all of life's complexities. Are you ready?
Absolutely. What's really interesting about these essays is they handle these big concepts in such a relatable way and offer these bite-sized pieces of wisdom that can actually make a difference in how we see ourselves and how we interact with the world.
Okay.
You know?
Well, one of the things that I thought was really interesting is one of these essays that talks about how we're so bad at predicting what will actually make us happy. We think, if we just chase this or get this or achieve that, we'll be happy, and then it just doesn't quite pan out that way. So what's going on there?
I think it comes down to a couple of things. One is something called hedonic adaptation, which basically means we get used to things. So that new car, that amazing vacation, even that promotion, the initial thrill, it fades, and then we're left wanting more. The essay also talks about something called impact bias, which is basically we overestimate how intensely and for how long events will affect us. We think if this happens, I'm going to be so happy, or if that happens, I'm going to be so sad. But reality, it's not quite like that.
It's always a moving target then.
It really is. Yeah, it's a moving target.
Okay.
But the good thing about the essay is it offers some really good insight into how to think about that.
Okay.
And instead of chasing those fleeting pleasures, the essay argues that we should be focusing on cultivating a sense of contentment and gratitude for what we already have.
Right.
And that's not about settling. It's about really appreciating the present moment.
Yeah, and not constantly seeking something that's elusive.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, another thing that this essay dove into is acrasia, which is basically knowing what's best for us, but then doing the opposite anyway.
Right.
I know I should go for a run, but I end up on the couch scrolling through social media.
Exactly.
So why do we do that to ourselves?
Well, I think the essay suggests that our brains are wired to stick with what's familiar, even if it's not ultimately fulfilling.
So how do we break free from that loop then?
Well, the essay offers a surprising tactic.
Okay.
It says focus on the discomfort you'll feel if you don't do something rather than the discomfort of actually doing it.
Okay.
So, imagine that feeling of regret or disappointment when you look back and realize you haven't made progress towards your goals.
So instead of dreading the effort of working out, I should focus on how bummed I'll feel if I keep getting out of shape.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can see how that would be motivating.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The essay emphasizes that the space between knowing and doing is where we often get stuck.
Right.
It's not about eliminating discomfort entirely, but rather choosing the discomfort that aligns with our values and our goals.
Okay, now this next essay dives into this whole idea of emotional intelligence, which I think is a big buzzword these days.
Yeah, it is.
But it makes a really compelling point about actually feeling our feelings instead of trying to just suppress them.
Right.
So why is that so important?
Well, it's about recognizing that emotions are valuable data. It's not something to be feared or avoided.
Okay.
Suppressed emotions, they don't just disappear. They fester, and they can manifest in unhealthy ways.
Right.
And this essay argues that our feelings are actually the most powerful guide we have,
Okay.
but only if we're listening to them.
So instead of trying to be happy all the time, it's about embracing the full spectrum of human emotion, even the messy stuff.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, the essay beautifully distinguishes between having a bad feeling and having a bad life.
Right.
Feeling sad or anxious or angry is just part of being human. It's what we do with those feelings that matters.
And I think emotionally intelligent people don't shy away from those difficult emotions. They use them as opportunities for growth and self-awareness.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what really struck me is the point that emotionally intelligent people don't confuse a bad feeling for a bad life.
Yes.
They know that those feelings are temporary and they don't define their overall well-being.
Absolutely. It's about riding the waves of emotion without getting swept away by them.
Okay, speaking of getting swept away, this next essay challenges this notion that we're all meant for extraordinary achievements.
Right.
It's like this pressure to be exceptional or to be one in a billion. And I'm wondering, is that even realistic or even necessary?
The essay argues that this obsession with being extraordinary can actually hold us back from finding true fulfillment.
Okay.
What if the real magic is about finding the exceptional in the ordinary?
Okay.
Think about the joy of a simple sunset. A heartfelt conversation or just a moment of quiet contemplation?
Yeah, I think that's so refreshing, especially today, in this hyper-competitive world
Yeah,
where we're constantly comparing ourselves to others and feeling like we're not doing enough or being enough.
exactly.
Yeah.
And the essay emphasizes that true contentment comes from appreciating those simple joys and those quiet moments that make up our everyday lives.
Mm-hmm.
It's about shifting our focus from what we lack
Right.
to what we already have.
Well, I think this essay has something to say to everybody.
It really does.
It's just about letting go of that pressure to be extraordinary
Yeah.
and embracing the beauty of like an ordinary life well lived.
Right. And it's not about settling for mediocrity.
Right.
It's about finding meaning and purpose in the everyday,
Mm-hmm.
in the simple act of being fully present.
That leads perfectly into this next essay, which is all about the importance of stillness and self-reflection,
Yes.
which, in our always-on culture, stillness is often seen as laziness.
Right, right.
But the essay makes a really compelling argument for why we need to rethink this, deeply ingrained societal conditioning.
What if stillness isn't inactivity, but a pathway to deeper creativity and clarity and connection with our inner selves?
Well, the essay points out that some of history's most creative minds, people like Einstein, attributed their breakthroughs to those moments of quiet reflection,
Absolutely.
not constant doing.
And research supports this. Studies show that allowing our minds to wander, to daydream, can actually enhance creativity and problem solving.
So stillness is not a luxury, but a necessity.
It is. It's a way to recharge and reconnect and tap into a deeper well of creativity and wisdom.
Okay, now this next essay, get this.
Yeah.
It suggests that mankind's development occurs in cycles,
Okay.
with civilizations rising and falling, each time reaching a higher level of collective consciousness.
Okay.
And get this, it's proposing that we might be in the midst of such a shift right now.
Wow.
I know.
That's amazing.
Yeah. What are some signs that we might be going through this shift right now?
Well, the essay highlights several signs.
Okay.
Think about the growing focus on social justice, the rising popularity of mindfulness practices like yoga and meditation,
Right.
and the increasing accessibility of information through technology.
Right.
It's like we're collectively waking up to new possibilities, exploring new ways of thinking and being.
The essay even mentions things like the increasing interest in organic food and holistic health as part of this shift towards a more conscious and interconnected way of life.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to consider, isn't it?
It really is.
Okay, well, this next essay throws out this really powerful concept.
Okay.
Nothing is as it is. It is as you are. So essentially what they're saying is our perception shapes our reality.
It's a profound statement.
It is.
That challenges us to consider the power of our own minds. Think about it. A flower is just a collection of molecules until our senses engage with it. It's our perception, our interpretation that gives it beauty and meaning.
That's a lot to unpack.
It is.
But it makes you realize how much control we have over our experience of the world.
Right.
It's not just about what's out there, but how we choose to see it.
Absolutely. And it's not about denying the reality of external events.
Right.
It's about recognizing that we always have a choice in how we interpret those events and how we choose to respond to them.
I'm starting to see how these seemingly abstract concepts actually have really practical implications for how we live our lives.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, this next essay brings us back down to a more practical level and explores a challenge that so many of us face: the pitfalls of overthinking.
Oh, I feel that one.
I know.
Deep in my soul.
It's like we get so caught up in analyzing every angle of a problem that we never actually take action.
Absolutely.
So what's the essay's take on that?
The essay makes a brilliant point. It suggests that overthinking can actually be a form of deflection, a way to avoid taking responsibility for our choices and making real change.
I think in a world where we're constantly bombarded with information, it's easy to fall into that trap of overthinking.
It is.
We're so used to consuming information that we forget that real growth comes from actually applying what we learn.
Right.
So what's the takeaway there?
The essay's message is clear. Action, even imperfect action, is the key to moving forward.
Okay.
Don't let overthinking keep you stuck in that cycle of analysis paralysis.
That's such a great reminder.
Yeah.
Okay, this next essay I found super insightful.
Yeah.
It talks about how constantly justifying our choices can actually be a sign that we're not truly aligned with our desires.
That's interesting.
So what's going on there?
It's like we're trying to convince ourselves and everyone else
Right.
that we're on the right path,
Right.
even when deep down we sense that something's off. And the essay suggests that if our inner voice was truly at peace with our choices, we wouldn't need to justify them. We would simply act. Yeah.
So it's not about overthinking and justifying.
Right.
It's about tuning into that inner voice.
Absolutely.
And having the courage to follow its guidance.
Yes, and that can be scary.
It can be.
Especially if that inner voice is leading us down a path that other people don't understand or agree with.
Right.
But the essay encourages us to trust our intuition, even when it goes against the grain.
And that can be hard to do.
It can be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, it's about recognizing that our path may not always be linear
Right.
or conventional,
Right.
but it's ours to create.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a powerful message for anybody who's feeling the pressure to conform to societal expectations.
It is.
This next essay is a really nice reminder to embrace the world through our senses, and that our souls actually can't experience the world in the same way our bodies can.
That's right.
So we really need to savor those physical experiences.
Right. Think about those simple pleasures.
Yeah.
The warmth of the sun on your skin, the taste of your favorite meal, the feeling of a loved one's embrace.
Right.
These are things that our souls can only experience through our bodies.
Yeah. And I think it's so easy to get lost in our heads,
It is.
especially in this, digital world that we live in.
Right.
But this essay really brings us back to the present moment and to the richness of the physical world around us.
Yeah. It's about grounding ourselves in the here and now.
Right.
Appreciating the beauty of our physical existence and savoring those sensory experiences that make life so vibrant.
Okay, this last one for this part
Okay.
is a big one.
Yeah.
And it might challenge some conventional thinking,
Okay.
but it explores the value of our suffering. Now, this isn't about glorifying pain or seeking it out,
Right.
but rather understanding its role in our growth and evolution.
Okay.
So what's the essay's take on that?
The essay argues that suffering is often a catalyst for change, a signal that something needs to shift in our lives. It can be a sign that we're out of alignment with our values,
Right.
that we're holding on to outdated beliefs, or that we're not honoring our true desires.
That's a lot to digest.
It is, yeah.
So are you saying that suffering is actually a good thing?
Not necessarily good, but certainly valuable.
Okay.
The essay challenges us to reframe our relationship with suffering,
Okay.
to see it not as something to be avoided at all costs,
Right.
but rather as a potential teacher, a guide that can lead us towards greater self-awareness and ultimately a more fulfilling life.
So it's about leaning into those difficult moments, those periods of pain and discomfort, and asking ourselves, what is this trying to teach me?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a powerful thought. It
Yeah.
makes you rethink everything you thought you knew about pain and its role in our lives.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. It's about recognizing those moments when we're creating unnecessary drama
Right.
or clinging to outdated beliefs that no longer serve us.
Yeah.
It's about taking responsibility for our own happiness.
One thing that I thought was interesting was one of the essays talked about how we all express and receive love so differently.
Yeah.
It's easy to assume everyone experiences love the same way,
Right.
but that's obviously not true.
Absolutely. And the essay highlights the importance of understanding different love languages.
Okay.
Not everyone will express their love in a way that we immediately understand or appreciate.
Right. And so, like if somebody isn't showering you with compliments or gifts,
Right.
it doesn't necessarily mean they don't care deeply.
Right.
They might just be expressing their love through acts of service or quality time or something.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that love can take many forms.
Right.
And being open to receiving it in ways that might feel unfamiliar at first.
Okay.
And the essay also reminds us that love isn't always these grand gestures and
Yeah.
these romantic declarations.
Right.
Sometimes the most meaningful expressions of love are found in the everyday moments, the small acts of kindness and understanding.
Okay, so it's those little things we got to pay attention to.
It is. It is.
Now, this next was a little bit of a reality check.
Yeah.
It kind of dives into this idea of how we can become our own worst enemies without even realizing it.
This one resonated with me too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because the essay argues that We often get caught up in this illusion of separateness, believing that we're in constant competition with others,
Right.
and that our worth is somehow tied to being better than everyone else.
It's like we're living in this constant state of comparison.
Right.
Yeah.
Always striving to prove ourselves worthy.
Right.
And ultimately, that just leads to feeling inadequate and insecure.
And it goes back to the essay before.
Yeah.
It was talking about overthinking.
It does.
We're just stuck in our heads.
Right. And the essay also points out the danger of seeking external validation.
Oh, right.
Of constantly looking to others for approval.
Yeah.
Instead of trusting our own inner compass.
Yeah. That's a recipe for disaster.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, and so how do we...
Yeah.
What's the answer?
Well, the essay encourages us to challenge those negative thoughts.
Okay.
To question those limiting beliefs.
Right.
And start living from a place of self-acceptance and self-love.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing our inherent worthiness.
Mm-hmm.
Not because of what we achieve or what other people think of us.
Right.
But simply because we exist.
Okay, so we've talked about self-awareness, emotional intelligence, letting go of those negative thought patterns.
Yeah.
But how do we actually put this all into practice?
Right.
How do we make those lasting changes in our lives?
This essay offers some really practical tips that you might find helpful.
Okay.
It emphasizes the importance of small, consistent actions.
Okay.
Of building habits that support our goals. It's about taking those big, overwhelming goals and breaking them down into manageable steps.
So instead of trying to overhaul our entire lives overnight,
Exactly.
we focus on making small, sustainable changes that add up over time.
Yes. And the essay also talks about creating a supportive environment, surrounding yourself with people who encourage and inspire you.
Yeah, find your tribe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The people who get you, who challenge you to be your best, and who celebrate your wins.
And that can make all the difference.
It can. It really can.
Yeah.
And maybe most importantly, the essay encourages us to be patient with ourselves.
Yeah,
Change takes time.
it does.
And it's okay to stumble along the way. It's about embracing the journey with all of its ups and downs.
Right.
And trusting that we are exactly where we're supposed to be.
That's a great reminder.
Yeah.
Now, this next essay, this one I thought was interesting because it really made me stop and think.
Okay.
It challenges us to question the goods we've been taught to value.
Okay.
It's like taking a critical look at those societal expectations.
Right.
And asking ourselves if they truly align with our own values or if we're just following a script that's been handed down to us.
I think we all absorb these messages about what a good life looks like.
Right.
The big house, the fancy car, the prestigious job.
But those things don't guarantee happiness, do they?
They don't.
No.
And the essay argues that we often get so caught up in chasing these external markers of success,
Right.
money, status, possessions,
Right.
that we neglect our internal well-being. It's about recognizing that true fulfillment comes from within,
Okay.
from living a life that's aligned with our passions, our purpose, and our values.
So we need to define good for ourselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about creating a life that feels authentic and meaningful,
Yeah.
even if it doesn't fit the mold of what society expects.
That takes courage.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Now, this next one kind of dives into this idea of finding enlightenment.
Okay.
And it's not about sitting on a mountaintop meditating for years.
Right.
It's about seeing through the illusions that keep us trapped in a cycle of suffering.
Okay.
So the essay draws a parallel to Plato's cave,
Yeah.
where those prisoners only see shadows on the wall,
Right.
believing them to be reality.
Right.
And it's only when one prisoner escapes the cave that he realizes the limitations of his previous perspective.
So enlightenment is about breaking free from those mental chains,
Okay.
those limiting beliefs that keep us from seeing the world clearly.
And that can be a long process, can't it?
It can.
Kind of,
It can.
yeah.
But the essay encourages us to question everything,
Right.
to challenge our assumptions and be open to new perspectives. It's about recognizing that there's always more to learn, more to discover, and more to experience.
This next essay,
Okay.
I thought this one was really interesting.
Okay.
It talks about those things we don't have English words for.
Okay.
Those experiences that are so profound
Right.
and so deeply felt that they kind of defy language. And I think we've all had those moments.
And we have. We have.
Where you can't even put it into words.
You can't. You can't.
Yeah.
And the essay does a really beautiful job of giving examples of these indescribable experiences.
Okay.
Like the interplay of sunlight and leaves, or the feeling of feeling a feeling.
It's about appreciating those moments.
Yes.
Those glimpses of something bigger than ourselves,
Yes.
even if we can't fully explain them.
It reminds us that language, while powerful, is ultimately limited.
Right.
There are some things that can only be felt,
Right.
only be experienced, only be known in the depths of our being.
And that's beautiful.
It is.
You know.
It is.
Okay, let's shift gears here to something a little more practical.
Right.
This next essay gives us some insightful tips on how to make real changes in our lives this year.
Okay.
It's about getting clear on our intentions, knowing what we truly want, and then taking action to make it happen.
Okay.
So what are some of the key takeaways there?
Well, it starts with setting goals that align with our values, passions, and our vision for the future.
Right.
But it's not enough to just set goals.
Right.
The essay also emphasizes the importance of letting go of things that no longer serve us,
Right.
whether it's toxic relationships, negative self-talk, or outdated beliefs.
So out with the old and in with the new.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The essay also encourages us to step outside of our comfort zones,
Oh.
to try new things, and to be open to the unexpected.
Okay.
Growth happens when we challenge ourselves.
Right. And I think it's easy to get stuck in those routines and patterns.
It is.
So this is a nice reminder to shake things up a little.
Yeah.
Okay, this next one dives into the dangers of external acquisition.
Okay.
The idea that happiness can be found in accumulating things,
Right.
whether it's material possessions, social status, or even knowledge.
Right.
It's so easy to fall into that trap.
It
It
is.
I think if I just get that promotion or buy that house or achieve that level of recognition, then I'll finally be happy.
And the essay challenges that belief.
Okay.
It argues that true happiness comes not from what we have, but from who we are.
Okay.
From our internal state of being.
Good.
It's about recognizing that external validation is fleeting.
Right.
That true fulfillment comes from cultivating inner peace, self-acceptance, and a sense of purpose.
So our worth is inherent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We are enough, just as we are.
Okay, good reminder.
Yeah.
Now, this next one is a little bit of a dose of reality.
Okay.
It reminds us that good is an illusion, that what we perceive as good or bad is simply a matter of perspective.
It's easy to get caught up in black and white thinking.
Yeah.
But the world is full of shades of gray.
Right.
And the essay encourages us to develop our own internal compass.
Okay.
To define our own values and to make choices that feel right to us.
Right.
Even if they challenge societal norms. It's about recognizing that morality is complex.
Yeah.
And that it's up to each of us to determine what feels ethical and aligned with our own sense of integrity.
And that can be a tough one,
It can.
because society's always telling us what's right and wrong.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Now, this next one goes into this thing of why we value our suffering so much.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating question.
It is.
And, the essay suggests that we often hold on to our suffering because we unconsciously believe we deserve it. It's like we've internalized this belief that happiness comes at a price,
Right.
that we have to earn it through struggle and sacrifice.
And the essay challenges that belief.
Okay.
It argues that suffering is a signal, a catalyst for growth,
Okay.
but that it's not something to be sought out or glorified.
Okay.
It's about recognizing the ways we might be holding ourselves back or
Right.
creating unnecessary drama in our lives.
Okay. Yeah, I get that. Now, this next essay I thought was really interesting, and it really struck a chord with me.
Okay.
It's all about reminding ourselves that we are not a novel, but rather a book of stories.
That's a great way to put it.
It challenges that idea that
Yeah.
we have to live this single linear narrative,
Right.
and that who we were in the past dictates who we can be in the future.
Our lives are made up of so many chapters,
Right.
so many different stories.
Right.
And we have the power to choose which story we want to write next.
Okay.
So
the essay is encouraging us to let go of those outdated narratives,
Right.
those limiting beliefs about who we are and
Yeah.
what we're capable of.
And embrace the possibility of reinvention.
Yeah.
Starting a new chapter.
Right.
Writing a new story that reflects our evolving selves.
We have the power to change the ending.
We do.
Yeah.
We do.
To create a future that's different from our past.
Yes, a future that's filled with hope, possibility, and joy.
Now, this next one dives into this idea of metanoia,
Okay.
which is like this profound shift in mindset or heart or way of life.
Right.
And it kind of explores those common struggles and circumstances that often lead to this type of transformative change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So have you ever experienced something that just completely shifted your perspective?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I think those moments often arise when we're forced to confront our deepest fears, our limiting beliefs, and our outdated patterns.
Yeah.
And the essay reminds us that change, while often uncomfortable, is a necessary part of growth.
So it's through those challenges, those moments that kind of push us to our limits, that we actually discover our true strength and resilience.
Absolutely.
And the essay encourages us to kind of embrace those moments of metanoia, to see them not as setbacks, but as opportunities for profound personal transformation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, this next essay, I thought this one was really interesting. It talks about the limitations of our physical minds. We're wired for survival, seeking pleasure, and avoiding pain. And that can sometimes lead us to make choices that aren't truly in our best interests. Like, I know that eating a whole bag of chips isn't good for me.
Exactly.
But that instant gratification overrides those long-term consequences.
Yeah. And the essay highlights the importance of developing our emotional intelligence. Learning to regulate our emotions and making choices that are aligned with our long-term well-being, even if they don't offer that immediate gratification.
So it's like playing the long game.
It is.
It is. Recognizing that true happiness comes not from chasing those fleeting pleasures, but from cultivating inner peace, self-acceptance, and a sense of purpose.
Exactly. Easier said than done.
It is. But that's where self-awareness comes in.
It does. It does.
It's about recognizing those patterns, those ingrained habits of thought that might be holding us back, and consciously choosing a different path.
This next essay explores why we often reject positive thinking.
Okay, that's an interesting one. Because it's like, we want to be happy, but sometimes positive thinking feels like we're just
fake, or like we're trying to cover up negative emotions.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I think the essay hits on something really profound here. It suggests our resistance to positive thinking often stems from a deep-seated belief that we're not worthy of happiness, that we somehow deserve to suffer.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a tough one to face.
It is.
But it makes sense. If we've been conditioned to believe that happiness is a reward for good behavior, or that it comes with a price, then simply choosing to think positive thoughts might feel inauthentic or even dangerous. So the essay encourages us to challenge those beliefs, to question their validity, and to start replacing them with more positive and empowering thoughts.
So it's not about denying the negative,
but
it's about consciously choosing to focus on the positive.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that our thoughts create our reality. And by choosing to focus on the positive, we can actually start to shift our perspective and create a more joyful and fulfilling life.
This next one I thought was really great. It's all about those things we should be thinking about. Those big, important questions that often get pushed aside. The busyness of everyday life.
Yeah, sometimes we get so caught up in the day-to-day that we lose sight of the bigger picture.
Exactly.
And the essay offers this list of these essential questions, ranging from our deepest fears to our most cherished values. It's about taking the time for introspection, for really digging deep and asking ourselves what truly matters. What kind of life we want to create and what legacy we want to leave behind.
And that's a powerful call to action.
It is.
It
is.
It's about being honest with ourselves, confronting those uncomfortable truths that we might be avoiding, and really having the courage to live a life that reflects our authentic selves.
This next one dives into self-love, reminding us that we don't have to love ourselves perfectly to be worthy of love from others.
That's a good one.
It's so easy to get caught up in that belief.
I know.
That we need to be completely healed, fully self-actualized before we can experience a healthy and fulfilling relationship.
But that sets an impossible standard.
It does. It does.
Like saying we can't be loved until we're perfect, which we'll never be.
And the essay encourages us to practice self-compassion, to treat ourselves with kindness and understanding, and to recognize that love is not a reward for perfection. Love is a gift that we can give and receive, even in our messy, imperfect humanness.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
It's a great reminder that we are worthy of love, just as we
absolutely
flaws and all.
Yes.
Now this next one. This one is both funny and insightful.
Okay.
It's all about how we can inadvertently become our own worst enemies.
Yeah, it's like we have this inner saboteur
Right.
who's constantly trying to undermine our efforts.
Right.
And the essay outlines this series of self-sabotaging behaviors,
Okay.
from comparing ourselves to others to clinging to outdated beliefs that no longer serve us.
Yeah. We all have those moments, right? You know?
We do.
Yeah.
And the essay challenges us to challenge those negative thoughts,
Yep.
to question their validity,
Right.
and to start replacing them with more positive and empowering beliefs.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that we have the power to choose our thoughts,
Right.
our beliefs, and our actions.
Right.
By making conscious choices, we can break free from those self-sabotaging patterns
Right.
and create a life that's filled with meaning, joy, and fulfillment.
This next essay
Okay.
is called The Idiot's Guide to Emotional Intelligence,
Okay.
and it highlights the importance of embracing our pain.
Okay.
Now, that might seem counterintuitive,
It does.
but the essay argues that pain is not something to be feared or avoided,
Right.
but rather an essential part of the human experience.
We're so conditioned to believe that happiness is about feeling good all the time
Right.
that we try to avoid anything that feels uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But the essay argues that true emotional intelligence
Okay.
lies in our ability to process and learn from our negative emotions.
So it's not about being happy all the time.
Right.
It's about allowing ourselves to feel the full range of human emotion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even the uncomfortable ones.
And we can learn from them.
It's about developing healthy coping mechanisms,
Right.
being gentle with ourselves, and recognizing that it's okay to not be okay sometimes.
Right.
You know, our emotions are not our enemies,
Right.
but rather valuable messengers trying to guide us
That's right.
towards greater wholeness and authenticity.
This next essay
Okay.
is all about choosing our thoughts.
Okay.
And I know this sounds a little bit,
Woo-woo.
yeah, woo-woo.
Right.
But the essay makes this compelling point about how our thoughts create our reality.
You do.
You know, what we focus on
Yeah.
expands.
Absolutely.
And by choosing to focus on those positive, empowering thoughts,
Right.
we can start to shift our perspective and create a more joyful and fulfilling life.
I think we underestimate the power of our thoughts.
Right.
You know, we tend to think of them as just these fleeting things that are in our minds,
Right.
but they actually have a profound impact
Right.
on our emotions, our behavior, and ultimately our experiences.
And the essay emphasizes that.
Yeah.
It's there.
Yeah.
All right. Now, this one's really important.
Okay.
It reminds us that self-care is not selfish, but essential.
Yeah.
And we've all heard the saying,
Yeah.
you can't pour from an empty cup.
Right.
And this essay really emphasizes that point.
It does.
You know, we have to take care of ourselves
Yeah.
in order to show up fully for others
Right.
and for the things that matter most to us.
It's about recognizing those early warning signs of burnout,
Right.
you know, feeling depleted, overwhelmed, or disconnected, and
Right.
taking those necessary steps to recharge and replenish our energy.
And sometimes we have to prioritize ourselves, you know, and our well-being
Yeah.
in order to be our best selves for everyone else.
Absolutely.
Now, this next essay, I think this one's really interesting.
Okay.
It challenges this idea that our lives are about finding ourselves.
Yeah, okay.
Instead, it suggests that we're constantly creating ourselves,
Right.
that we are evolving, growing, and becoming with each experience and each choice we make.
So there's no one true self waiting to be discovered.
Right.
It's more about this ongoing process of self-creation.
Right.
It's about embracing that journey of self-discovery,
Okay.
experimenting with different identities,
Right.
and letting go of those limiting beliefs that keep us from fully expressing our authentic self.
And we're not defined by our past
We're not.
or by our mistakes
Yeah.
or our limitations.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, this essay is all about the power of our perceptions.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that the world exists within you,
Right.
that our perception shapes our reality, and that by shifting our perspective, we can actually change our experience of the world.
Think about it. Two people can witness the same event
Right.
and have completely different interpretations of what happened.
Right.
You know, it's not about denying objective reality,
Right.
but it's about recognizing that our subjective experience of that reality is shaped by our thoughts, our beliefs, and our past experiences.
This next essay,
Okay.
I thought this one was just pure fun and wonder.
All right.
It shares this collection of experiences that
Okay.
we don't yet have English words for.
Oh, okay.
It's a reminder of that richness of human experience, that vastness of emotions that we can't always put into words.
We've all had those moments
Right.
where words fail us, where we feel something so deeply,
Right.
but can't quite articulate it.
And the essay gives some great examples
It does.
of those types of experiences.
It does?
Now, this next essay,
Okay.
this one is a wake-up call
Okay.
for those of us who tend to self-sabotage.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
about recognizing those patterns
Yeah.
of negative self-talk
Yeah.
and those ways we might be holding ourselves back or creating unnecessary drama.
It's like we have this inner critic
Right.
who's constantly trying to undermine our efforts
Right.
and keep us playing small.
Right. And so how do we silence that inner critic?
Well, the essay encourages us to challenge those negative thoughts,
Okay.
to question their validity, and start replacing them with more positive and empowering beliefs.
So it's about recognizing that we have the power to choose our thoughts,
Yes.
our beliefs, and our actions.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, this essay explores this idea of enlightenment,
Okay.
but not in the traditional sense.
Okay.
It suggests that true enlightenment isn't about reaching some elevated state of being,
Right.
but rather about seeing through the illusions
Mm.
that keep us trapped in a cycle of suffering.
Oh.
It's about waking up to the reality that much of what we believe to be true
Right.
is simply a construct of our own minds,
Right.
a product of our conditioning and our limited perspective.
And the essay encourages us to question everything,
Okay.
to challenge our assumptions, and to
Okay.
be open to new perspectives.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, this next essay, I think this one's really important. It encourages us to take time for reflection,
All right.
to ask ourselves those big, important questions
Yeah.
that often get pushed aside in the business of everyday life.
Right.
Sometimes we get so caught up in all those day-to-day things
We do.
that we forget about the bigger picture.
Right. And the essay encourages us to take stock of our lives,
Right.
to examine our values,
Mm-hmm.
and to clarify our priorities.
Okay.
It's about getting clear on what truly matters
Right.
and making sure that our actions are aligned with our values.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This next essay is all about strengthening our mental and emotional muscles,
Okay.
building resilience and developing coping mechanisms that support our well-being.
Right.
Life is full of challenges,
It is.
and it's important to have those inner resources to navigate those difficulties with grace and strength.
It's like going to the gym for our minds and hearts.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. This next essay encourages us to really connect with our true desires.
Okay.
Sometimes it feels like we're living on autopilot,
Right.
just going through the motions.
Yeah.
But not really living a life that's aligned with what we truly want.
Right. And it's about recognizing those moments
Right.
when we're making choices out of obligation or fear
Right.
rather than from a place of genuine desire.
So how do we do that? How do we make that shift?
Well, the essay reminds us that we have the power to choose a different path,
Okay.
to reconnect with our passions
Right.
and to create a life that feels authentic and meaningful.
This next essay explores those subtle signs that suggest the world might be experiencing a shift in consciousness.
Oh, okay.
It's like we're on the cusp of something big,
Uh,
something transformative.
It is a fascinating idea.
It is.
The essay points to a growing focus on social justice and equality,
Right.
the rising popularity of mindfulness practices, and expanding access to information and knowledge.
Yeah. It feels like things are changing.
It does. It's as if we're collectively waking up to a new
Right.
way of being,
Right.
more conscious, compassionate, and interconnected way of life.
I've definitely noticed those trends too.
Yeah.
This next essay talks about the importance of pain,
Okay.
but not in the way that we typically think about it.
Okay.
It argues that pain is not something to be feared or avoided,
All right.
but rather an essential part of the human experience,
Mhm.
a catalyst for growth and transformation.
Right. We tend to view pain as something negative, something to be avoided at all costs.
Right.
But the essay suggests that pain is actually a messenger trying to tell us something important.
Right.
And by listening to our pain with compassion and understanding,
Right.
we can actually gain valuable insights into ourselves and make necessary changes in our lives.
So instead of running from pain, we should try to understand what it's trying to teach us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Pain can be a powerful teacher, guiding us toward greater self-awareness, growth,
Okay.
and ultimately a more fulfilling life.
Yeah, this last essay dives into a pretty profound question.
Okay.
Why do we value our suffering so much?
Mm.
It's like we cling to our pain, our struggles, our stories of hardship.
It's a complex question.
It is.
But the essay suggests that we often hold on to our suffering because we unconsciously believe we deserve it.
Oh, wow.
That it's somehow a necessary part of life.
Yeah.
Might even resist happiness and ease because they feel unfamiliar or undeserved.
So we're kind of standing in the way of our own happiness.
In a way, yeah.
Wow.
The essay encourages us to challenge those beliefs,
Right.
to question those negative thought patterns, and to start embracing the possibility of a life filled with joy, ease, and abundance. It's about recognizing that we are worthy of happiness simply because we exist,
Okay.
not because of what we've suffered
Well,
or what we've achieved.
Wow, what a journey this has been.
It has.
We covered so much ground today.
We did.
Everything from the illusions of control and the power of stillness to the value of suffering and the importance of embracing our authentic selves.
Absolutely.
It's a lot to take in.
It is.
But I hope you found at least a couple of nuggets of wisdom that resonate with you.
Good.
Some insights that can help you navigate this crazy, beautiful journey called life.
And remember, the real work begins now.
It does.
It's about taking those insights, those aha moments, and putting them into practice in your everyday life.
So, as you continue on this journey of personal growth and self-discovery, I'll leave you with a final thought-provoking question to consider.
If our lives are a collection of stories, not a single novel, what story are you choosing to write right now?
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep writing your own extraordinary story.